Okay, it's right on 10 a.m. for me in Melbourne, Australia. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. A huge hello to those of you that are joining me online and live, and a huge hello to those of you that are watching the recording later. Good morning. Lovely to have you here. I know that it's impossible to find a time of day that's going to work for everyone. I know someone's joining us from over in London. We've got people in America. We've got people in different parts of America, different parts of Australia. And yeah, so if you're watching the recording, you're just as welcome, and always contact me if you've got any questions about anything, because I am here to serve you. So my name is Aisha DeLune. Thank you for being here. The topic of the webinar is the happiness recipe. And you know, if you watched the little video I recorded as the promo for this, my inspiration for putting this webinar together is because so many people are getting this personal development thing backwards. Things are happening in their lives that aren't enjoyable, and they're pouring their precious life force energy into creating affirmations, taking different actions, and trying to fix those things that aren't how they want them to be. And so often they can even burn out doing that. They're doing all the right things, but the bit that they've missed is actually coming home to the deep truth of who they are and starting with their foundations first. So what we're going to be running through in the next hour together is the first thing, a simple strategy that's going to save you time, money, and energy in your personal development. I'm looking off to the side and making sure I deliver on promise. So I've got all my things over here. The second thing is why you may have been failing to create wholeness and lasting happiness. The third thing is one skill that you already have, but you're not probably using to its fullest potential to guide your life into total congruence. And when I use the word congruent, I mean body, mind, heart, soul, all in alignment and saying yes to your life, your actions, your priorities, and what you're spending your energy on doing. And the last thing is how to stop looking for the next thing that you need to fix about yourself, because you do not need fixing, but you may need some knowing. So with that said, let's get going. So one simple strategy that's going to save you time, money, and energy in your personal development is this. Most of the stuff that's out there isn't personalized. There isn't a book that's written about you and your exact circumstances unless you wrote the book. So over my years, I have been working as a transformational life coach, a healer of body, mind, heart, and soul, helping people to create congruence, achieve their life goals, arrive in really profound self-acceptance, and improve all relationships, not just the one with themselves, for 20 years now. And over that time, I've read lots of books and been to lots of seminars, and lots of people are teaching what works for them. So to just pick one example out of the many, many, many that I could, I once read a book about morning routines. And it was this way of doing the mornings, and I think it was like 7 different things that to have this amazing morning and to have the most amazing life, it was these 7 things, or however many, that you needed to do each morning to set your day up. And I get that who wrote that book, it was their amazing morning. It was their thing that worked for them through trial and correction and really knowing themselves and finding what works. They probably tried lots of different things and they ended up at that. But for that book to fully work for me or for you, you're going to have to be in exactly the same physical, emotional, and relationship circumstances. So I'm pretty sure the person writing that book was married to someone in the kind of partnership where both of them, contributed around the house, they had young children. But the way that that book was written, it didn't seem to me like that person had to make any school lunches or, change the baby or do any of those things. They got to just do their morning, kind of eat their breakfast, and off they went to work. So when I read that book, I was a single mum with 2 children, with a business that is really soul food for me. So it's not a chore for me to go to work. I absolutely love every minute in my business. So I want to give it a lot of love, and I get a lot of love from it. So I've got a house and garden to manage. I've got 2 children that I have custody of. I've got a business that I adore. I've got my own life and my own relationships. And that book just didn't work for me. It didn't sit in, there was no structure for what do you do if your children get up in the middle of it, how to modify it. And so the strategy that's going to save you time, money, and energy in your personal development is to make sure that any new tool that you get, try it and personalize it, because human beings are not one size fits all. No one else on planet Earth has ever been you. And you know what? Even you have never been who you are right now. We change through the ages and stages of our life, through the stages of our own personal development. You know this based on what used to, upset you 5 years ago, or what used to enliven you 5 years ago might be different to now. So everything you learn, just take it as a suggestion. And what each and every one of us needs to do to really make it work is personalize it. Enter into a process of trial and correction. The more popular thing to say is trial and error, but I like not to think of things as an error. To me, the only true failure is when we give up. Failure is only possible if we set a time limit on something. So it's much better to approach everything, and especially your personal development, kind of with the attitude you would have had when you were learning to walk. You kind of took to it with enthusiasm. If you took a step and it really worked, you celebrated, and you weren't really looking at a calendar going, well, I've got to have this sorted within 2 weeks, and by the time I go to, this daycare event, otherwise, I'll be too embarrassed to turn up. It's not how the human mind learns. We learn through trial and correction. So we try things. You might get a tool, you might read a book and you go, oh, that's amazing. And they say I should be doing this 2 times a day at this time. I'm going to try it, and it'll either work or it won't. So we can keep the essence of it and go, the time that works for me is this. Or maybe you work shift work, so you need to do it this way or that way. And it's not you sabotaging your efforts. It's not you not following instructions. Just understand that any tips and advice that comes from anyone outside of you, it has to be personalized. Otherwise, it's more than likely not going to work. And it's not because there's anything wrong with you. It's just because you're not a clone of whoever gave you the tool. So that is point 1. I want you to forevermore personalize the information that comes in. Understand that failure isn't possible unless you set a time limit. And really, we're on this earth for as long as we're on it. Life is, I consider myself to be an ongoing work in progress. Even though I love me and I love my life and I love what I'm doing, there's always things that I'm kind of like a plant sending out tendrils. There's always new things that I'm doing, and every new thing that I do, I need to learn and grow and try and see what works and see what doesn't. And that's how nature works, and that's how we really work too. So really personalize anything that comes to you and know that that's natural, that's healthy, and that's actually how it's meant to be done. Moving on to our second point. We've got an hour together and I want to make sure we really have some time to cover these things well. The second point I've mentioned is why you may have been failing to create wholeness and lasting happiness. So first of all, let's drop into this word wholeness. So whole with a W. And what does that mean for you? So to me, feeling whole means there's nowhere that I'm leaking massive amounts of energy. It means that I feel full, like Full, full. We talk a lot about, the cup half empty, the cup half full. To me, wholeness is about feeling full. And I've got to be honest with you, now that I have mapped my happiness recipe and I know the ingredients that I need to thrive, I am full pretty much all the time. And when I do anything in my life, I'm actually doing that from the overflow of my cup. So there's wholeness, there's fullness, and then overflow is what drives my activities. Whereas before I understood this, I used to just be giving my own energy away all the time. And that's how burnout happens. So what I want you to know in terms of why you might have periods of happiness and then you're back to that kind of, I call it blurk, like, who doubled the gravity? Everything's hard. And, you know, for some of us, that's total misery. For some of us, it's just the day where we can't find our spark. We're all different and we all have different levels of high and different levels of low. But every single person, in order to feel full, in order to feel whole, you really need to know and understand this concept. And I'm going to introduce it to you here. And I go into it in really full detail in my book, The Happiness Recipe. And the concept is this: every single human being has a care label. This top has a care label that lets me know how to wash it. So there's a way to wash it where I'd probably destroy the color or shrink it or break it. And there's a way to wash it where it gets to just thrive and be a top with, you know, ongoing longevity. And plants have a care label too. The plant label lets us know, you know, I need full sun, or I need lots of shade, or I need lots of space, or I grow better without much space. I need this pH in the soil. But, you know, plants are different, and every single human being is different too. You have a care label, and it's as individual as your own fingerprints. The difference with human beings is we don't have our care label neatly printed, you know, on our backs or on a tag, which stimulates the need for personal inquiry. That's why we're on this personal development path. We know that joy is possible. We know that empowerment is possible. We know that deep love of self, of our partners, of our children, that amazing synergistic relationships are possible. And in order to have them, you really need to know your care label. So how do we do that? I'm going to run through a few spectrums with you, and there's lots and lots and lots of these, but we're going to just run through a few so you get a sense of what is this care label thing. So every human being needs different things, and I want you to embrace this part of our chat with an air of curiosity. We tend to do a lot of judgment, us beautiful human beings, of ourselves mostly, but also of others. And if we can have curiosity around our care label, around what we need, and then we can care enough about ourselves to give ourselves the conditions we need to thrive, soul deep happiness is honestly just the effortless result of living in alignment. So let's talk about these care labels. I want you to imagine a spectrum exists between having a life filled with structure and having a life filled with freedom. Now, some people need total freedom, or they feel like a caged bird. They start to just wilt and shrivel like a plant on its care label that said, I need shade, and you've got it planted in the sun. It's going to be burning, it's going to be wilty, it's going to be giving you feedback that it's not thriving. There are other human beings that need and really thrive within structure. So they like to know, you know, their holidays are planned, you know, down to, what they're doing each day and where they're going to be, and the accommodations all booked. This person just kind of rocks up the airport and goes, I'll go there. And there's nothing wrong with either of these things. There's nothing wrong with them. And most of us sit somewhere in the spectrum. Now, if you can know this about yourself, people who really thrive within structure, when things are not structured, so maybe there's lots of change at work, or there's lots of change at home, or, you know, they become a parent for the first time and the whole world changes, or maybe they've bought a house but they haven't sold their other house and there's no certainty and there's no structure and they don't know when they're moving. their body's going to be giving them some really clear feedback, and it manifests as stress or depression or anxiety or, and it's just our being, like the wilting plant. It's just our being letting us know there's not enough structure, there's not enough structure. And this is where, in my one-on-one work, mapping people's care label and their happiness recipe is so satisfying, because forevermore they can learn how to give themselves what they need and lose the judgment around it and actually just be who they are. So that's one of the spectrum, structure and freedom. Here's another spectrum. There are some people that really thrive with a lot of external recognition. So they like to have physical demonstrations of thanks, appreciation, knowing that they're valued. That's something that really works for them. There are other people that have absolutely no need for that whatsoever. Now, we see a lot of judgment of people. So the people that just have no need for external validation can often go, you're so needy, and have all this judgment about the other person. And they'll have other needs that this person doesn't have. So everyone has their own needs. And often this person that, thinks, well, everyone needs to be thanked and appreciated and have that demonstrated in an obvious way. They might have a judgment of this person that, they don't care or whatever. We could spend all day talking about judgment, and that's not what I want to talk about. I want to make sure you are not judging you. So on your care, think about, plants that need lots of water. If you don't water them enough, they wilt. Plants that need not a lot of water, you water them too much, they die. Neither plant is wrong. They just need different things. And you know what? So do we. So you might really thrive with a lot of external recognition. And if you're not getting that, you're going to start to feel sad or resentful or heavy, or you're just not going to want to show up quite as much. And that's where, if you were my client, we'd be talking through strategies for asking for what you need, identifying what's missing, because sometimes we just feel really shirty and we don't actually know why. And when you understand your care label, you will forevermore not be confused when you're feeling a bit short fused and cranky. So that's just one of the spectrums. Don't need a lot of external recognition, really thrive with a lot of external recognition. There's lots of these spectrums. We're only going to go through 4 today. The next one is amount of touch that we need. So I'm an incredibly kinesthetic human being, and I really feel it inside my being when there's not a lot of touch in my life for whatever reason. When I was younger and I was doing lots of traveling on my own, or different periods of life, we have more touch or less touch. So perhaps you're someone that really thrives with lots of touch. It might be cuddles with your pets. It might be sensual or sexual intimacy. It might be, you might want to go on holidays and have a massage every day, and you really thrive with that touch. It helps you, it fills your cup. There are people that don't have as much need for touch, and they genuinely don't. There are people on the path of healing that would thrive with touch, but they're a bit too shut down or blocked to bring it in. That's a whole different thing. So there's people that really thrive with lots of touch every day, and there's people that have less need for touch. And these are the extremes, and most of us are somewhere along the spectrum. Depending on what else is happening in your care label, it changes too. So if you're someone that needs lots of structure and lots of external recognition, and you're not getting either of those, well, maybe your need for touch might go up a little bit. But if all those other things are being met, maybe you're in the middle. So I hope this is making sense for you. So when we understand what we need, take the judgment out of it. Sometimes when there's partnerships and the need for touch is really different, there can be a lot of hurt and a lot of judgment. If we can embrace curiosity and learn to communicate our needs and our feelings, and really listen to each other with the view of understanding rather than kind of defending ourselves. People with varying needs and really different care labels can have amazing relationships, but emotional communication skills are necessary. So we're not projecting onto someone else. We're actually just asking for the humble truth of what we need to really thrive. The next one that we're going to talk about, the fourth one, and there's 36 of these spectrums in my book, The Happiness Recipe. And when I teach the workshop live, other things come up as well. So I'm not saying it's the whole of the human experience, but I want you to get a sense that there's edges and there's everything in between. The last one I'm going to talk about, because this has come up so much in my one-on-one work and certainly when I'm working with people in relationships. Some people, and I'm one of these people, understands how they feel and experiences their emotion through external processing. If I want to know how I feel about something, I need to talk it through with someone. So I'm an external processor emotionally. There are other people, there's lots of things in between, and there's other people who are internal processors. Hello, the birds are part of our workshop. I wonder if you can hear them. They're internal processes. So when something big happens for these people, one will call someone, book in with their coach or their counsellor, call a friend, or even talk out loud to themselves, talk it through to get a sense of how they feel so that they can then, express to whoever they need to or start a conversation. And this person here will go deeply inward and think it through and think it through and think it through and think it through, and sometimes have absolutely no need to even share the result. If they get to the point where they go, oh, okay, I understand it, and it's done, sometimes all of that can happen inside and nothing needs to be shared, or they realize something needs to be shared and they share the result. Neither of these people are wrong. They're just who they are. They're just, I need high pH soil, I need low pH soil, there's everything else in between. No one's wrong. But I see a lot of judgment. The external processor thinks, usually, unless they are familiar with this work, thinks this person is shut down and not communicating and they're detached. And often this person, if they're not, familiar with this work, finds this person needy and what are you talking about it for? And they don't know how to meet each other's needs until they learn to meet each other's needs. And I promise this is absolutely teachable and learnable, but I want you to understand the spectrums. No one's wrong. If you are an internal processor, you just go right ahead and do that in whatever way you need to, and just communicate the result if you're wanting things to change in your outside world, and learn to ask for what you need. Sometimes in relationships, when we're one's right over here with external processing and one's right over here with internal, it's about making an agreement when something happens. Okay, just this person going, okay, you go away and have a think about it, but come back to me with, the result of what you've thought about, because otherwise I feel like I'm left hanging. So it's just about communicating what you need. And that isn't the solution for everyone. I just wanted to give you an idea of how it can work. So we all have a care label. And if you know your care label and you choose to give yourself the ingredients that you need to thrive, any goals that you set for your personal development really need to be in alignment with your care label. Make sense? Otherwise, you're just totally going to burn out. There's no point, reading a book by someone that suggests lots of, hours and hours of time alone every day because that's what's going to fill your cup. If read the book and get what you can and personalize it and individualize it. But if you're someone that's an external processor that really thrives with synergistic, meaningful company, that's actually going to depress you having too much time on your own. So we really need to set our goals, our personal development goals and our goals for life and relationship in alignment with our care label, and then there is no burnout and there's a hell of a lot less anger and resentment, and you get rid of all of it, to be honest, if you can follow your care label and learn to communicate. The next thing that we're going to cover and discuss was titled like this: one skill that you already have but are potentially not using to its fullest potential to guide your life into total congruence. Remembering that congruence is mind, body, heart, soul, all in alignment. This part that we're going to be talking about is going to be priceless for you in learning how to follow your care label. The skill that I'm talking about, I name embodiment. And when I say embodiment, I'm talking about tuning into the wisdom of this, your vehicle. Our human bodies are the result of so much evolution. There's so much data in here. And the most amazing thing about embodiment is that your being, because we're not just physical. I know you know this. You know, we're this magnificent fusion of mind, body, heart, soul. We're energy. We're mostly energy. Mixed with physical matter, mixed with life experience. So we've got emotions, we've got this amazing mind, consciously and unconsciously. We're a fusion. And when you can tune into the wisdom of your body, it's giving you moment-to-moment feedback about you that's deeply personalized for you. Because here's the thing, what enlivens my being and that makes me, is this like the total congruent, hell yes, loving life, might be a set of circumstances that for you would be stressful and draining. Because we're all different. Remember the fingerprints? We're all different. So what drains us and what enlivens us is really different. And your body is going to be giving you feedback about you, for you. It's just the most amazing tool. And I don't know about you, but for the early years, I started my personal development journey when I was 19. I had my first, Reiki healing. I'm now 43. Had my first Reiki healing at 19 and went along and learned Reiki and became a teacher of Reiki. And I've been on this path for a really long time. And those first teachers were teaching in a way where sort of enlightenment was transcending the body. It was kind of, meditation was about getting out of the body. It was almost like, the body was kind of dense and, I want to say not that useful. I'm sure that's not what they said, but it was kind of like this thing to ignore. And what I've realized over time, or what I've found the most useful in actually now living this joyous, congruent life where I'm living my life's work, my soul's passion, I love my life, and I'm a lot healthier than I was back then too on every level, really bringing the body into the personal development journey, because no part of your life that you've lived up until now would have been possible without your body. Even the most amazing meditation experience on planet Earth, you were connecting to your body, you were using your breath, you were connecting in order to get there. So the body's pretty important, and it's also our piece of individualization. I know that we're all one and there's no separation and we're all energy, but our body is the part of us that's individual. My life experiences are different to yours. So my body is giving me wisdom for me, and your body is giving you wisdom for you. So it's just a really cool idea to bring the body on board and make it part of your journey, because otherwise you're missing out on a whole lot of wisdom. So I'm just going to have a sip of water. I want to introduce the idea, before we go into some exercises around embodiment, I want to introduce you to the idea of consent. Now, we tend to talk about consent in a sort of a sexual context when we're teaching our, young people about sex and what's consent and what's yes and what's no. We might think of consent like I have to sign consent forms for my children to attend things at school. And I want you to think about consent from now on in a really whole life way. And I'm going to teach you how to listen to the wisdom of your body so that you know when your body is saying yes to things, when your body consents to the experience and when it's saying no. Because what an amazing skill. Your body is not ever going to say yes to something that's wildly out of alignment with your care label. So you've actually got everything you need to discover your care label and really be living it and giving yourself what you need to thrive by tuning in and listening to your body. So we're going to do a couple of exercises together. And I want you to really tune in and feel what you can feel inside your body. So I'm going to teach you, first of all, how to recognize what feels like a yes for your body. So I want you to think of someone that you would love to hug. So try and make it someone living right now. Otherwise, if it's like, oh, I just wish I could have one more hug with my mum, the yes will be confused with some grief and sadness if she's not with you anymore. So just think of someone alive right now that you would, if they were there in front of you, arms open wide, you would be like, yes, I want to be in your arms. It doesn't matter. I want to hug you. It might be a little baby, it might be a child, might be a partner or a sibling, whatever, someone that you want to hug. And I want you to imagine their arms open wide and you're hugging them or they're hugging you. Isn't that lovely? Now step back. I want you to feel what it feels like in your body when you're about to hug that person. So this person is there, you're about to hug them or be hugged by them. And how that feels is your body is going to be saying, yes, I want this experience. So just to go there inside your mind and think about it. It's like, there they are. Do I want to have a hug with them? And just feel what yes feels like. For me, yes is this kind of expanded feeling. It has a little bit of an upwards motion. And it's quite lovely. I want you to think of an experience that you would say yes to, hands down, every time, no questions asked. So you might want to think of a travel destination. You might want to say, like, if someone said to you, look, I've got tickets for you and however many people you would need to take with you or want to take with you to go to this destination. If you've got a job, like I've called your work and you've got the week off, do you want to go? So just think of something like that. Or if you're not into travel, it might be, I know, fill in the blank, this person, I know that you're really, into them. Would you like to meet them? Or something like that. So think of an experience that hands down, no questions asked, you would say yes to, and then play it out in your mind. Someone's offering you, do you want to do this? And feel what yes feels like. Just really drop in and feel. Do you want to? So yes, my yes comes like right from the pit of my stomach. It's gut wisdom. It's kind of this movement upwards and an expanded feeling. So when I have taught people this embodiment exercise, and usually over a larger period of time, so I'm giving you like a little taste test, the congruency signals for yes tend to be, they're often upward kind of sensations. Might be like a bubbling or a buzzing or kind of just this deep knowing of yes, or an inner voice of yes. It tends to be kind of an expanded type feeling or a lightness. So just letting that flow through you and be. So now for the contrast, I want you to really give yourself the experience of learning what no feels like for you. So to get the opposite reaction, I want you to think of someone that you do not want to hug. Try not to pick someone really traumatic, like, your ex that broke your heart or something like that, because it's going to confuse the signal. Just think of someone, maybe it's a politician that you don't like. Maybe it was, the principal of your high school that you thought was a bit of a tosser. Maybe whatever. You think of someone that if they said, like, hey, you want a hug? You would be a no. So no questions asked, just no thanks. If you had the freedom to not go there. So think of that person, imagine arms open wide. Do you want to hug them? And feel what that feels like in your body. It's different to the yes, isn't it? So common no signals, so it's like it's incongruent signals, are often things like a sinking. Depending on kind of who you've imagined, sometimes there can be a rising up, but it's a tenseness, like a tensing of the pelvic floor, the gut tightening. So it's kind of where the yes is often an expansion, the no can often be like a constriction or a sinking or a heavy feeling. Let's try again. So I want you to think of something that you would say no to. So maybe someone says, look, I've got free tickets to this band, and you are just not a fan of the band, right? Think of that. Or would you like to come to my 2-year-old's recorded playing concert? I don't know, I'm trying to think of something funny. And I mean, little 2-year-olds with a recorder would be gorgeous, but you might need some earplugs. Think of an experience that you would say no to. You know, if you love motor racing and someone said you want to come to this motor racing weekend, that might be a yes congruency signal for you. If that's not what you would be interested in doing and someone said, hey, do you want to come motor racing for the weekend, that might be your no. So it's totally up to you. Just think of an experience that someone could offer you, and hands down, every time it would be a no for you. And then just close your eyes, go within, and imagine someone going, hey, do you want to do this thing? And feel what no feels like for you. What does it feel like? So depending on the intensity of what you've chosen, it might be like a sinking feeling. It might be your shoulders might come in a little bit. There might be a tightening. It's very different to the yes, isn't it? They're so different. If you can take your time and practice and learn this skill, you will never be confused ever again about what's right for you and what's wrong for you. And it really is a priceless skill to have, because as you can tell from the examples, who we want to hug, what we want to do, how we want to spend our time, it's individual. Individual as our fingerprints. And if you can learn to follow the wisdom of your body, you will never again need stress management because you'll know before you ever do the thing that you don't want to do it. So there's two things I want to add to the mix of this embodiment conversation. The first is, I want you to think of congruency over time. So congruency is when your body's in alignment. Body, heart, mind, heart, and soul says yes. So sometimes let's imagine that you don't like flying, say in an aeroplane, and you need to get to, or you want to go to England for your best friend's wedding. And so when you're asked, hey, when you ask yourself, do you want to go to England for your best friend's wedding, your initial reaction congruency wise might feel like a no, because you're tapped into the I don't want to do flying. And so I want to really explain the difference between congruency now and congruency over time, right? So let's imagine when you go, if I could, do I want to be at this wedding? And it's a yes. It's like a yes. I want to be there. So you're congruent for the event, but you're just perhaps not congruent with the how that you're getting there. Can you feel the difference? So then we get to make a choice. We get to go, okay, I could get a boat to England for my friend's wedding. How long is that going to take? How many months could I have off work? How can I use that time? How much money is it going to cost? Is that a reasonable way to get there? Feel into the congruency of all of that. And that might be a no. And then you might go, okay, I want to be at this wedding. Congruency, yes. Am I willing to have some short-term, to use the scientific term, to have that longer term, lifelong experience of knowing I was there on that special day for them? Yes. And so you might choose something that shows up in the moment as a no for the long-term benefit of the yes. So many, many things that we want to do in life, like let's say you want to have a daily meditation practice. I have a daily meditation practice. At the moment, I'm doing the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it is just changing my mind and body, and I'm absolutely loving it. But each day when I go to do the meditation, sometimes my initial reaction is whatever, something else is going on, I want to do something else. And it's my commitment, my congruency to the long-term results of that get me there listening to the meditation. And at the end, I'm always glad I did it. Just like if it was me with the wedding, I'd be glad that I did it in the longer term. So where we can get a little bit messed up in terms of following our own signals is not thinking beyond the now, if that makes sense. So someone, let's say that I'll do one more example of this before we move on. So have a sip of water. Another example of this might be if you want to trim down a little bit or get a little bit more fit. Usually the only people that really love exercise are the people that are already fit. Everyone else needs to push themselves through that initial congruency signal of, hey, do you want to get off the couch and go for a walk? Might be no, because the body is in a pattern of not doing that stuff. And so the body in the immediate, just the pure physicality has a bit of resistance. But long term, if you want a result and you are a congruent yes for the result, all you need to do is retrain your body, and it doesn't actually take long for the body to get into a pattern where then it kind of looks forward and it ends up being a yes to a congruent yes to the actual activity of turning up to yoga or going for a walk or going for a run or going to the gym. So I really want you to listen to the wisdom of your body in the now, but also know that you want to test for congruency over time. And this is actually really important because short term, human beings are capable of putting up with all kinds of debilitating and horrible situations. What's not great and what is never, ever, ever recommended is to stay in a horrible, debilitating situation that's draining your energy, that you're a congruent, brain's working faster than mouth, that long term is incongruent. So let's say you're in a job you don't like, but long term you're studying and you know that in 2 years' time, you're going to be doing something that just lightens up your whole being. You might be a congruent, no thanks for going to work that day, but you know you're on a pathway to leading somewhere else. It's a whole different situation for your body, mind, heart, and soul doing that. Versus I'm in a job that I don't like. I've got absolutely no hope for the future. Long term, I know I'm still going to be here in 10 years. Your congruency is an absolute hell no for staying there, but you have absolutely no plan to change it. If you stay in that situation, your body is going to be giving you really clear guidance that you're out of alignment with the truth of who you are. And that feedback might come in as debilitating anxiety. It's your wisdom going, not this, not this, not this, not this. Please don't numb the feedback that you're not okay. It's your wisdom letting you know, I can't keep doing this. It might show up as depression. It might show up as a health challenge. We're not designed to be out of alignment with the truth of who we are long term. We're just not. And so if you don't know how to get out of the situation you're in, if it's a relationship, if it's a job, please get in touch with me or with someone like me and let's sort this out, because you really can transform the rest of your life if you can learn how to really listen to your body's wisdom and feedback and take action to create change. So that's the first thing that I wanted to say is, really understanding the congruency over time. The other thing that I want to say is, you might know, and this came up in a workshop I was teaching a couple of days ago. I was teaching the happiness recipe workshop as a one-day event. And we were talking about, well, what do you do when you know that your congruence is a no, I don't want to do this thing, but you feel a social or emotional obligation to someone? And that's where you might have set up some really long-term patterns where you're in relationships that basically work because you're willing not to respect yourself. And I know that's a really harsh thing to say, but sometimes we're in relationships that just do not honor us. And when we start to honor ourselves and ask for different things and say no to things, we get a lot of kickback from that. And there are some relationships that really are based on you not honoring you. And as you really step into your care label and your own happiness recipe, those relationships will either change or they will drop away. So understanding your care label and learning to give yourself what you need to thrive. You may also need some help from me or someone like me to learn how to communicate in your relationships. Because once you get the wisdom of your body, like my body's a yes for this, but I don't feel like I've got permission from my life circumstances to do it, or my body is a no for this, but I'm in a pattern and I feel obligated to keep doing it, you might need some help to learn how to communicate what you need, learn to shift and change your relationships. You might need to do some of that real deeper work on your own self-acceptance and your own self-worth, and knowing that you deserve to really thrive in your life. And there is no substitute for one-on-one support when we're doing that kind of thing. It is priceless, and an investment in yourself in that area will change the rest of your life forever. It is, it might be an investment up front, but I promise it's priceless in terms of what it will do for the rest of your life. So I want to, just finish up that part on embodiment. We've done some exercises. You've got the sense a bit of what yes feels like, what no feels like. I really want you to take these tools and practice them and feel into them, because obviously any tool can only help you if you practice and you apply it. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to get in touch with me and ask away. I'll talk about how to get in touch with me at the end. So the last part of these 4 key lessons we're going to learn today is this. The wording is how to stop looking for the next thing to fix yourself and start using your skills and wisdom for self-affirming stuff. So let's be honest, a lot of us on this personal development path, I know I did this for a long time. I felt broken. I felt like I needed fixing, and I was constantly looking for the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And I have been in doing this work for 20 years. I've been in my own private practice for 16 years, working, doing this work one-on-one with people and teaching in groups. And at the start of my business, I was even doing it. I was like, I need that qualification before I can do this, and I need that, and I need that. So always looking outside. And what I want you to really come home to, using the skills that we've already talked about, and really coming home to this, is you have everything you need inside of you right now to know and follow your next steps. I'm not saying the next step might be getting some external guidance, but the first step is really dropping in and knowing that right now you are getting priceless feedback from your body and being about how in alignment with yourself you are. So when we try and fix things outside of ourselves, that's where we're getting the personal development thing backwards. The first thing to do is come home to ourselves and really drop in and see what we need. I hope you really can feel the difference, because it's like if you've ever had a really good manager, a really good leader at work, or if you are a leader or a manager at work, when a staff member's not achieving what you know they can, you don't come along with judgment, or you don't come along and go, right, to get fixed, you need this, or if that happens, then they're not a good leader or a good manager. It's a process of curiosity. What's happening? I can see that you're not, you don't seem to be doing as well as you normally are. I can see how capable you are. What do you need? Is it a skills gap? Do you need some training? Is there some support that you need, or encouragement that you might need from me? What is it that you need? And I really want you to drop in to yourself, knowing you don't need fixing. You are perfectly glorious as you are, this fusion of mind, body, heart, and soul. You may have designed a life that doesn't actually suit who you are. So you're this amazing tropical plant, and you're planted near the North or South Pole, and you're really struggling. But it doesn't mean that you are wrong or that you need to be fixed, because you were never, ever born to thrive in those environments. So step one is coming home to the truth of you. And if you can do that with curiosity, with a sense of self-management, like, oh, what do I need? What's missing? Some of it might come from your care label, like, what's missing? Am I overstimulated? Am I understimulated? Am I trying to do too much? Am I not using my intelligence and creativity enough? What do I need? What do I need? And really drop into the wisdom of your body, because inside your body is your essence and your energy. Our intuition is physiological. Our gut wisdom involves, the brain cells and the knowing that's actually in our gut. I want you to think of it kind of like this. I'm going to give a practical example, because we could take ages going into lots of personal and emotional circumstances, and they won't all be relevant for all of you. So what a lot of people are doing is kind of like this. Imagine that it's a cold night and you come inside and you sit by the open fire. And when you first sit by the open fire, you can feel the warmth seeping in, and it feels good. It's a congruent yes. It's like, oh. And if you're anything like me, then you turn around and you warm up the back, and then you warm up the sides, and you're like a rotisserie of yes, kind of warming up your being, right? But if you stay there super close to the fire and you start to dry out if you were wet, eventually your body will start to give you feedback. It'll start to get a little bit too hot. And what we tend to do when it's something like sitting in front of a fire, we tend to listen to our body and move away and, self-select into something that's more comfortable. What people are often doing in their work, in their relationships, in the way that they're managing money, in their intimate life, in their own self-respect, is they're basically doing the equivalent of, they're sitting in front of the fire, their legs are getting really hot, their body's giving them the wisdom, this is too much now, and they're just staying there. And they're just staying there. And they're going, oh, something must be wrong. I need to fix myself. I need to fix myself. I need to read this book. I need to do this course. I need to do this thing. I need to do this thing. They're doing all these things. And they stay there. And they stay there. And they stay there thinking they're the problem. They're somewhere where they could never thrive. They're there in front of the fire. Their pants are about to catch on fire. And so they start drinking or medicating or something like that. They're trying to medicate the feedback away that they're in pain. And they're getting on stronger and stronger and stronger, whatever it is, painkillers or medication, or they're drinking a bit more, or they're talking to their friends and they're getting distracted and they're not listening. Their whole being is saying, move away. It's too hot near the fire. This relationship is wrong with you. This workplace doesn't honor you. I can't remain staying in this financial situation. I can't stay in this relationship without expressing myself. I feel like I'm going to explode. That's the body giving you feedback. I'm so sad with how I'm living. The answer isn't tapping into the next lesson and the next lesson and the next lesson. It's about listening. There's things happening in your life, in your circumstances. Maybe it's just what you're listening to inside your own mind all the time, your own self-talk, your own messages that you got from your parents that you haven't chosen to move on from. Whatever it is, it's like sitting too close to the fire. And no external tool is going to help you to fix something when the problem is that you need fundamentally to shift and move backwards. Does that make sense? Can you feel the difference? The example I gave in the video that I recorded to promote today, I'm going to go through again because it's a really simple and easy thing. So there are people addressing their personal development kind of like they've got a broken roof. So the roof of their house, bits of it keep falling off, tiles keep cracking, that pit caved in. And so they paid a builder to come, but it still kept happening. They paid a plumber to come, it still kept happening. They got the latest, shiniest, best tiles, still kept happening. They invested more and more and more. They did the $10,000 option, and it looked and felt great. And then it broke apart as well. It wasn't sustainable. And the reason that the roof kept falling apart was because the foundations of their house were rotting. And it didn't matter what they did on the roof, the foundations were broken. So each time the foundations crumbled a little bit more, it didn't matter how great the roof was, the foundations couldn't hold the roof up. So what I'm talking to you about today is inviting you to come into your foundations. True, lasting, deep, soul deep happiness comes from being who you are. Your uniqueness holds the key to your lasting, authentic happiness. It's time to really come home and get to know you, because you're magnificent. You're beautiful individual you that's a magnificent fusion of mind, body, heart, and soul. And even though we're all one, there's this beautiful quote by Rumi, R-U-M-I. If you haven't looked up his work, then please do. It's just divine. And the quote is, "You're not a drop in the ocean. You're the entire ocean in one drop." And I love that. And it's absolutely true. We're all one. We're all part of the ocean, the whole in the one. But we're also individuals. And your life experiences and also your soul's passion. We're here to learn different things. What drains us and what enlivens us is different. And you came here to planet Earth, this lifetime, whatever your belief systems are, it doesn't matter. You came here this lifetime to be you. And so many issues with confidence are because we're trying to be what we're not. And so I could never be confident trying to be you. I couldn't. I don't know how. But I can learn to be confident being me, and I have learned, and I can teach you how to do the same. So I want to really thank you from the depths of me for giving me an hour of your time today, whenever you're watching. Thank you again to those that join live, and thank you to those of you watching the recording. It's not lost on me that you've given me an hour of your time, and I'm so grateful. And I love to share what I've learned in 20 years of doing this work. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you got from listening in today, what the take-homes were, what you'd need help with, what's really worked and what you've taken home and what the benefits have been. I would love, love, love that. So there's lots of different ways to get in touch with me. I'll run over a few of them. You might want to get in touch with me through Facebook. So my name is Aisha, I-E-S-H-A, Delune, D-E-L-U-N-E. So you'll find me, Aisha Delune, on a personal page, but it's a little bit personal, a little bit business. You'll also find Holistic Vitality with Aisha Delune is the name of my business page. And I spell holistic with a W because I like the idea of wholeness rather than a hole in the ground. So holistic is spelled W-H-O-L-I-S-T-I-C. Vitality with Aisha Delune that I spelt before. That's my business page. I'm on post things most days and just help you feel inspired. And it's a place to, get a bit of connection, and really it's about self-acceptance. So I don't do a whole lot of rah heightened states, because heightened states aren't sustainable. What I do is let's meet up here now where you are right now is the only place you can make change from. You are magnificent, and let's take those steps together rather than anything super hypey. The other place I would absolutely love to see you is in my private Facebook group. So I run free trainings in there every month, and that is called Discover Your Happiness Recipe in 2019. So I would love to see you in all of those places, and you can message me or write me a note or whatever. You can also email me at Aisha, IESHA, at aishadaloon.com. So I'll spell my name again, IESHADELUNE. So Aisha at aishadaloon.com. That's my email address, and I would absolutely love to hear from you. If you've been listening to this and it's triggered some awareness of, oh, I really want some help with some of that, it would be amazing to have a guide to really hold my hand, hold my heart, and witness me as I really step into myself and my authentic power and achieve what I want to achieve in my life in a congruent way. Then I invite you to get in touch with me, and let's book a discovery call. I allow 45 minutes to an hour for those discovery calls. They're totally free. I work with a limited number of people one-on-one, and I only take on a client that I am absolutely myself a congruent yes for. And if I absolutely know that if they commit to me, I can commit to them and we will get them a transformational result. And I have a long-term program called Transformation for Life that is one-on-one, and what happens in that mutual commitment to each other is honestly happy tears, soul food, transformation for life. So if that interests you, then get in touch with me in one of those ways. Send me an email, head to my website, aishadaloon.com. You'll see it cycle through the holisticvitality.com.au site until it becomes the primary one. So if you see it shifting a little bit, don't worry. aishadaloon.com will be the central website very soon. I've just been going through a rebranding process. You'll see a link on there, scroll down, you'll see a link, book your discovery call. I would absolutely love to speak with you, and let's talk about how I can help you achieve the fullness and the wholeness of beautiful you. Thank you so much for listening. It was fantastic to have you here. Hope you enjoy the recording, and I very much look forward to having you in my community and hearing how today went for you. So lots and lots and lots of soul deep love, and wishing you all the very best. Enjoy the rest of your day.